This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop. Get real.
Welcome to DBL. Good morning, everyone. It is very, very good to be back here at DBL.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you. I missed you all, even you and you. I missed you both, even though you tease me all the time.
Yeah. How's everything going?
Everything is serious, but no longer dire. And it's a wonderful thing that she is alive right now. So that is what I'm starting with. A very good day. Now, we're also going to start with the arrest of a suspected serial killer. You guys might have heard about this. 59-year-old Rex Heuermann was arrested last week and pleaded not guilty to the murder of 3 women. All of them were found dead in 2010, wrapped in burlap and buried within a quarter mile of each other along Gilgo Beach in Long Island. Now, he is also the prime suspect in the murder of a 4th woman who was also found at the same location. Police were at his home over the weekend, recovering more evidence, including removing a large number of weapons he allegedly had gun permits for, 92 firearms. One of the key pieces of evidence in this case is this Chevy Avalanche that was described by witnesses and was found at Heuermann's home. Police were also able to link him to the case thanks to DNA recovered from a pizza box and hair found on the burlap bag. What do we think about this break in this case? It's been going on for 15 years. I've been studying this case because I listened to true crime forever because the bodies kept piling up. If you didn't know, they've also found 6 additional bodies at that site. We don't know if they're related, but it could be a dumping ground. But 10 bodies at one site is an awful amount of bodies to recover. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I think one was a man, right? And then one was a younger child.
Toddler,
so they don't know if it's all connected or not. I'm kind of just getting up to date on this story, and I think so are the police as far as the public goes. I think they know a lot more, and they're just putting out, like, this is our guy, here's why. But I think they've been piling up evidence, you know, as the years went on. They have some very substantial evidence, like the hair that matches his wife on the burlap sack, the pizza box. They have a number of items to put this guy away for life. But again, I think they're kind of biding their time. They know how much, because one little mistake, and then that guy's free, right? But it just goes to show you, too, he has 92 firearms, not to get on the debate of firearms at all, but it's like, you need 92 firearms legally? Like, that's a whole different debate. But back to this, I think people are invested in true crime and serial killers, and it just doesn't happen that often. And now this case, so I think a lot of America is invested strangely.
Yeah, what do you think, Erica?
Oh, I was more thinking about the next case.
Oh, for sure.
What
we'll come up with. Just so you guys know about this, the criminologist in 2011 came up with a profile of who this person would be. They said to be a white man, his mid-20s, mid-40s, married, well-educated, financially secure, and owner of an expensive car, lives near the dump site. Heuermann, 59, married man, white, who is an architect in Manhattan and lives 15 miles from Gilgo Beach. I also want to let you know that during this time, the police chief at the time, James Burke, was in his own amount of trouble by visiting sex workers on his own. So many people in this community thought it could have been the serial killer, the police chief. So that took years away from the investigation, years. He was then sentenced for beating up a suspect. So I'm just letting you know there's ups and downs in the Suffolk town police that were really troublesome.
There's a reason, and Jeff, we kind of talked about it last week when we were talking about, you know, who's available to be sex trafficked, who's most vulnerable to be attacked and killed, and it's poor people.
Yeah.
It's people that are sex workers. It's people that have that are unfortunately addicted to drugs, that are viewed as expendable in our society, and that's why it took years. If these had been students on the campus of Yale, would this have taken years? This would have taken 12 hours before the police descended on that, like, you know, a bank robbery gone wrong.
It's a great point.
Until we start viewing everybody as having equal humanity, this is what will happen. There's an anger that is, you know, there's a reason they were able to make a profile as a suspect. It's the same kind of guy that has this anger towards poor people and towards women that have been seen to have sullied themselves sexually. And that's why over and over again, it's the same. It's either nurses, college students or sex workers. And, you know, I'm just surprised it took this long.
Me too. And they were all the same height, 5 feet, 100 pounds, hazel eyes, brunette hair. So this was a pattern that they saw as well. Erica was referring to this that we want to get to. There's another true crime case that's getting a lot of attention. Police are really trying to piece together what happened, so are we, to 25-year-old Carlee Russell. Here she is. She vanished last week. Follow me here. After calling 911 and her family about seeing a toddler she saw walking along an Alabama interstate. She was missing for 48 hours until police say she returned home by foot Saturday night. Now, her boyfriend posted about it on Facebook, saying Carlee was kidnapped and was, quote, fighting for her life for 48 hours. What do we think about this case? What do you think happened to Carlee? Erica, please, you have the floor.
I don't know what happened to Carlee. I'm very happy that Carlee has somehow returned home. This case was it's pivotal in a lot of regards because, as Al mentioned, especially when you're talking about women, people of color, minority groups, we very seldom hear about their disappearances or something happening, especially early on, the first 48 hours being the most critical. This case required people to have some conversations in their home because the truth is we do know that adult trafficking, sex trafficking, all of those things, human trafficking are a very real thing. And there's been so many different things that have come into place of people being tricked into situations that they wouldn't have been in had they not had the empathy, had they not. So I don't know what happened to Carlee, but I do know that over the weekend, what happened with friend groups and family groups in terms of what you should do and shouldn't do in these situations was critical and important, and I hope that Carlee is okay.
Yeah, me too. They did find her wig. I mean, they found her phone, they found her car, everything that seems, and what Erica's saying is there is some thought that perhaps that child was put out there as a lure, right? As a bait. As a bait. Oh my God, you're going to stop, you're going to help, you know, and then take her and snatch her away out.
If we're being honest, though, that seemed like a stretch to me. Okay. That seemed like a stretch to me in that it's a very difficult thing to take a toddler and then tell it what to do on a highway. If I'm trying to bait Erica into my car, I wouldn't have a variable like a toddler. What I would do is have probably an adult saying, I broke my leg. You would come running because you're who you are, and then I would get you. Having a toddler is just like the toddler could go the other way.
Just a variable.
4 cars could pull over. Right. It just seemed strange, and it really made me think of another case that we haven't gotten really any. It was so sad. Former Ohio State quarterback Dwayne Haskins, who was found wandering on the highway I used to take every day to work in South Florida. It turns out that it seems like we're getting information that he was drugged at a dinner.
Oh, wow.
And it was a bizarre story where he was wandering on the highway and was hit by a garbage truck. He was like a #1 pick or something. I mean, he was a top quarterback. Whoa. So when you hear people wandering on the highway, I mean, to get out of your car on the highway is perilous. So the idea that an adult that's super functional would be doing that, it just seems so strange to me. I'm having trouble even piecing together what could lead to that.
Right. Well, she was on the phone with her family as she was saying there's a child here, which I might get out of the car for at night. Right. And immediately the phone went dead as she was speaking to her family. So she seemed to be in rational mind, called 911, called her family, trying to get help. What do you think?
Much like the first story, I think the police aren't releasing as much information as the public needs at this point. I think they're still piecing the story together as it goes, and as the week goes on, I think more details will unfold and kind of bring this together, because like you said, Al, were they treating this kid like the kid's in on it? Like, how are they making this kid do that?
If you've kidnapped a
there's
toddler,
a lot of things that don't fit right now.
Why would you then re-release that kid that you've... People are looking for
it doesn't fit right now. Why would you walk home after that? A lot of things don't fit, and I think there's a reason. The police aren't releasing all the information.
All right, well, we'll keep you updated on this story.
I'm just glad we found her. I don't care.
I'm just glad she's okay. Exactly, absolutely. We'll switch in gears here. Coming up on DBL, our interview with actress Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek. This is my favorite part of the entire show. How much of the show was improvised? I hope this wasn't. And a fan taking a selfie causes a massive Tour de France crash. Plus, Miranda Lambert calls out a group of girls at her show for taking selfies. Is it time, people, to put the phones down? DBL, this show is amazing.
There's a lot going on down here.
I would have been part of the Mile High Club.
Yeah.
So on point. But I want to have a conversation about what's happening now.
It was like trafficking.
We are live.
So there is a video, just so you guys know, of what we believe allegedly is she pulling over, and there is somehow it looks like another car pulls out in front of her. So that's confusing too. Again,
It's so taut that it's like breaking up.
yeah, there's a weird video that an interstate highway camera that shows this.
Is there video of the toddler?
No, we don't know if the toddler ever existed in the first place.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But it's odd. She seemed rational on 911 to her family, saying, "I see this child. I want to help this child." So to me, that's what I would have gotten out of the car. I would have gotten out of the car if I saw a toddler wandering the interstate.
And there's a lot of different, it's not just the toddler story. There's a lot of other stories that have come up about people, even cones in the middle of the street that are displaced, people getting out to move the cone, being taken
that's when
that
they
way.
snatch you. Exactly.
So there's a lot of
People are getting
reasons
very
for
creative nowadays.
why these conversations were important. Again, I don't know what happened to Carlee. I hope whatever happened to her was something. So I don't know, but I do know those conversations are important because a lot of times, you hear like, oh, you don't ever do this when you're driving down a road and blah, blah, blah. And it sounds like very old, like urban legend. But the truth is those things are happening. And you should have like some type of idea of a course of action.
Did I ever tell you that story of that guy? I think I might have told you, Tori, when I was like 7 or 8 and I was riding my bike. And this is before the internet and kids knew anything. And this guy asked me to come over and help him put oil in his car. Remember that?
Podcast.
And there was just something...
In
I
you?
was just like, yeah, and I started crying. But I was like, why would a grown man need me to come over? And he was like, parked precariously.
Oh, sorry, hold on. Welcome back to DBL. Is it time to put our cell phones down?
No. Nice prop.
That's the question we're asking because
Welcome back.
Yeah, a couple of stories. You said that chewing gum making headlines. First, check out this. It was a crash at the Tour de France Sunday, and it was caused by a fan trying to take a selfie. His arm hit the biker's handlebars. Thank God nobody was hurt in the pileup. I've gotten really deeply.
Are we sure? It looks
I know.
like one guy was hurt.
Well, I think he's hurting his heart because he wants to keep going. Meantime, check out what Miranda Lambert said to a group of girls at one of her shows who were taking selfies. Let's watch Miranda. Let's take a look.
Something bound to fall apart. I'm gonna stop right here for a sec, Danny. I'm sorry. These girls are worried about their selfie and not listening to the songs a little bit. Sorry. I don't like it at all. We're here to hear some country music tonight. I'm singing some country damn music.
Ironically, that was caught on cell phone.
What do we think? I'm having a lot of mixed feelings.
What do you mix about?
Okay, first of all, if I pay a good amount of money to go see Miranda Lambert, I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do at that show. If it's to take selfies to have proof that I was there and to show, that's part of the culture, and that's something that everybody does. Now, on the other hand, I can imagine that's distracting to the singer, but that's part of being a musician these days. Selfies are part of the concert.
I'm Team Tori.
I took Taylor Swift concert. I took a lot of selfies.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
I mean, I don't understand that. But Erica, it's not my business. I'm old. I go to concerts to enjoy the artists. That's how I grew up because I didn't have the option of taking a cell phone. So I'm used to enjoying things in the moment.
Right, it's not 1890. It's not 1890 anymore.
Yes, we're not on the covered stagecoach anymore. And if people want to go and do this, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But Erica, they're allowed to do what they want if they paid their ticket price. It's very strange for me.
No, I agree, but I do also agree that the artist has a right to set the tone for what they would like. I don't think there is anyone that's wrong in this situation. I think they both wanted to do what they wanted to do in that moment, and they both did it.
And they did.
Yeah, I mean, when I go to shows, like I went to Erykah Badu with my little sister a couple weeks ago, and
I yelled at the wrong Ebony because of it.
Yes, you did yell at the wrong Ebony. Al was upset that he wasn't invited, so he yelled at Ebony, who is our wardrobe extraordinaire, and I was like, well, I was talking about my sister, Ebony, but neither here nor there. Yeah, you know, there has to be, like, for me, I'm like, okay, we're here, we're having a great time, and then I'm like, oh shoot, we should definitely get like a video, or we should definitely get a photo. And then the rest of the time, I'm super engaged. But some people want to document the entire thing. If you as an artist want to set a certain tone for what your show is going to be like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
So why not ban phones if you want that kind of a tone?
Yeah, I mean, you could, but at a certain amount of people, how feasible is that? I mean, you're not talking about like a 300-person show.
Jeff, can the artist set the tone? I don't think they can.
It's like weird. Sometimes it's distracting when I'm like reading the prompter and Ira takes his shirt off. I'm like, why are you taking your shirt off in the middle of the day, Ira? It's so weird. But no, I like when I go to see my favorite artist, like Jason Mraz is up there, I get a picture of me and my wife, like, boom, looking at the stage while he's doing his thing, because that's what you're doing there. It's not the whole show. I think maybe she might have slipped a word or two and then kind of blamed it on something else. That's what I think happened.
That is
because everyone's recording all the time and taking pictures. I think artists are used to it. I think she might have like slipped a verse or forgot a line, and she's like, it's your fault.
I'm gonna do that the next time I forget my punchline. I'll be like, all right, well, this guy's not wearing a belt.
Yeah, that's how. Hey, I've had a lot of experience screwing up on the prompter, so a lot of things are going around that doesn't involve me.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Coming up on DBL, actress Annie Murphy tells us all about what it's like working on Schitt's Creek, and we see Jeff mess up one more time. Just kidding.
These are my pups. Total cuties, right? Well, how do we keep them from getting too hot? With all of our furry loved ones in mind, I went to these sources to get the fast facts.
No, it's not safe to leave your dog in the car in the heat, even in the shade or with windows cracked.
The most common thing that we see causing heat-related illness and heat stroke is pets that are left in cars.
The ASPCA warns young, old, overweight, thick-coated, and flat-faced pets are at most risk for overheating.
Really above 65 degrees or so, that temperature is going to raise pretty substantially.
Yes, grooming habits should be adjusted for the summer. Brush out excess fluff and trim extra length that could be packing in the heat, and to help manage shedding around the house. But our experts say a full summer shave could lead to sunburn, even overheating.
Their coat is in general meant to be adaptive for the season.
Yes, the pavement can get too hot for pets' paws.
I think if you are questioning it, put your hand down and hold your hand down there and see if it's comfortable for you. If it doesn't feel comfortable for you, it's not comfortable for them.
Avoid blacktop, opting for cooler sidewalks and soft grass when possible.
They do have this rough keratin surface on the bottom of the paw, but it is not impenetrable.
And don't feel guilty if your pup isn't getting as much outside time on these hottest days.
The majority of people are great pet owners, and so they want to get them outside. They want them to have fun. That happens and it's fairly hot out. They can overheat pretty quickly.
Keep them busy with indoor exercise and enrichment activities.
Don't push them. If you can't handle it, they definitely can't.
Make sure your dog also has plenty of water. If you are planning a day outdoors, pack them their own water bottle and take plenty of breaks. With your Verify, I'm Abby Larico.
Welcome back to DBL. Earlier, we sat down with fan favorite actress from one of the biggest recent comedies out there, Schitt's Creek. Now she's voicing the lead of an adult animated comedy about a girl whose life comes crashing down, forcing her to lead her late father's cult. Check out our conversation with Annie Murphy. Please welcome Emmy winner Annie Murphy.
Yeah. Annie, we're all such big fans here. So happy to have you. Let's jump right in because Annie, you're voicing Petey, and praise Petey, of course, and her apartment burns down, forcing her to start a new life. How much of this can you actually relate to?
I can relate to a lot of it. My apartment did, in fact, burn down,
Oh,
and I
my
lost
goodness.
all of my earthly possessions. So yeah, so there are some similarities between me and Petey. Now that I think about it, now that you pointed out, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't know why I laughed. You're like, my apartment burned down. Ha ha ha. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why. You just make me laugh. I don't know why. Yeah.
I know. How much do you relate to the cult leader part of it?
I'm glad I can say not that much.
Okay, good.
Like that's where the dissimilarities start creeping in.
That's the answer you have to give. You have to be like, I don't know why, I can't relate to any of that. But there's no way that you're on set and you're reading the script and you're going through it where you're going, I think Petey's doing a good job, but this is what I would do if I had a cult. Was there anything where you're like, if I had a cult, I think I might do this?
I could very much get behind her first decree, which is no more human sacrifices.
Yes.
I feel like I would be on the same page in that sense.
That's a good move there.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to bring up Alexis because we all loved Schitt's Creek. How much of the show did you get to improvise?
Very little.
Really?
Despite, the massive improvisational talent that is, Eugene and Catherine, we would always shoot to script. And then if anyone had, something that they wanted to try out, it didn't necessarily make it in. It rarely made it in, but we always had the opportunity to kind of give something a shot if.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Now, how similar to Alexis are you? When fans meet you, do they expect to see Alexis?
They do, and often I get like, you kind of look like that girl from Schitt's Creek, because I am. This is me like done up today.
Yes. Top knot, big shirt.
Yes, exactly. I put in much less effort than Alexis does.
So it's so ironic. Me and my wife sat down yesterday and we watched the first season of Black Mirror, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm interviewing Annie tomorrow. That's so wild. So anyways, how close do you relate to this Black Mirror thing? And I gotta know. If it gets scary when you were filming it all, because yours was pretty funny, to be honest with you. But how about that song, Tap In? Did you have to learn that song from Sweetie, or did you already know that song?
I knew it, but not as well as I needed to for the show. So Salma Hayek and I actually just spent many, many hours just listening to it on repeat and trying to get the lyrics down. I don't know if we were successful, but we put in the time anyway.
Totally successful, because me and my wife were talking. I'm like, do you think she knew that? I'm like, I'm going to ask her that tomorrow. I'm like, do you think she knew that song? And you really played it off like you just had it on repeat on your way to work or something. So you pulled it off. You're a good actress.
Thank you.
Well, we got to talk about comfort shows. Now, you said that The Office is your favorite. Mine is Veep, for sure. How many times do you think you've rewatched The Office? Like, can you get a round number?
I think I've probably watched it 5 times now.
That's good. That's a good start. Yeah. 5 more, you'll have all the words memorized.
Annie, I just noticed your shirt's a TLC shirt. You get cooler and cooler by the moment.
No, that's the network, not the group.
Oh, it is?
No, Sam, I'm just kidding.
I love the network, but it's the group on my shirt.
Of course it is.
Oh my gosh, Annie, thank you so much. DBL Nation Freeform is making its animated debut with Praise Petey, premiering July 21st with 2 back-to-back episodes, so catch it the next day on Hulu. Ooh, is someone calling you there?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
blowing up over here.
Yeah, who is it?
It's a friend.
It's the CEO of TLC.
Don't sue me.
Let's get back to, so it's premiering July 21st with 2 back-to-back episodes. Catch it the next day on Hulu. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, Annie.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Aspartame is an artificial sweetener and is most commonly used as a sugar substitute in foods and beverages like diet drinks. But is it safe for you to consume? Open any article and you may find conflicting information. We took these concerns straight to the experts. Our source is Dr. Danielle Wyckoff, Director of Tox Strategies, Health Science Practice, and Dale Shepard, MD, an oncologist with the Cleveland Clinic. Wyckoff noted aspartame is used in many food products a lot of people might not even know contain it.
can also be in chewing gums, yogurts, and other food types.
Wyckoff says it's a relatively simple compound that our body is able to metabolize quickly. And despite it being in a bunch of things, Wyckoff says the study shows aspartame is okay to ingest in moderation.
This means that globally, regulatory agencies charged with evaluating food safety continue to consistently conclude that aspartame is a safe food ingredient.
Dr. Shepard says the agency has 4 categories it uses to rank items for safety. Aspartame now falls into the possible carcinogenic to humans category, which means it ranks below known carcinogens like alcohol and tobacco. The agency says this falls under this particular classification because more research is needed to prove its harm. So our experts say consuming aspartame is generally safe, but too much of anything isn't good.
I think the bottom line is that we don't have good evidence that you should go to your refrigerator and clear it of all the diet sodas. Drink diet sodas in moderation.
Dr. Shepard says it's safe to consume 40 milligrams of aspartame per kilogram of body weight a day. So this means an adult who weighs 154 pounds would need to drink more than 9 to 14 cans of Diet Coke with aspartame a day to go over the acceptable daily intake. With your Verify Fact Check, I'm Megan Bragg.
Nearly all vehicles are tested to see how well they'll protect you in a crash. A viral Instagram post with more than 150,000 likes prompted safety concerns because it claims to show how various SUVs fared when they were rear-ended into a wall by a semi-truck. But several commenters questioned whether this video is actually real. So let's verify. Does this viral video show a real SUV crash test? Our sources are video game maker BeamNG, a search using video forensics tools Invid and Revi, and TikToker Old Tender Man. Verify used video forensics tools to trace the viral video back to this TikTok with the hashtag BeamNG, posted by user Old Tender Man. BeamNG is a video game where players can customize realistic-looking CGI vehicles and then simulate their handling and durability. TikTok user Old Tender Man tells Verify the video shows some of his in-game creations, and a spokesperson for BeamNG confirms the viral clip was created using their software. So, no, this viral video does not show a real SUV crash test. It's from a video game. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. If you love to cook but don't love the joint pain that can occur in the kitchen, try these tips to prevent added injury. It's time for some joint and muscle support brought to you by Omega XL. So first up, use tools for chopping and stirring like a food processor and a mandolin. Next, make sure your tools have large rubber grips on them. Lastly, sit at the kitchen table or on a stool to do your chopping and prep work. Omega XL has improved the lives of millions of consumers, supported by 30 years of clinical research. Omega XL's powerful and proven benefits have transformed the lives of athletes, celebrities, and dedicated daily users. So call 1-800-813-6801 or visit omegaxl.com for more information. Do you sit when you chop? Anyone?
No.
I stand, but I have a nice cushion to stand on.
You stand on a cushion? Why do you?